Oh, hello, and welcome to Spherical Luminosity's YouTube Live. We're actually covering a really important topic tonight, and that is identity, the secret to being awesome during an era of polarization, which sounds counterintuitive, but it isn't when you get into it. So if you wouldn't mind commenting in the chat, which some of you have, thank you so much, your first name and where you're from, so I can say hello to all of you. So we see Pam and Chris from San Miguel de Allende and Avery from Myrtle Beach, Florida. We actually have two of you from Myrtle Beach, Florida. We also have Carol from Delray Beach in Florida. And then Emily. Hi, Emily and Ray and Mamie from San Francisco. Good to see you, Mamie. Always good to have you join. And today we are going to be talking about this topic at length and probably from a different angle than you would expect. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen Chong. I catalyze your shift from the ordinary to the exhilaration of the quantum by giving you the tools to change your frequency resonance so that the life you live matches the life you dream of. Now, for those of you who are brand spanking new to frequency work and don't know much about it, I recommend checking out episode 176, Frequency Work Fundamentals Reboot of my podcast, Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, which can be found on this very same channel. And that is episode 176, Frequency Work Reboot. All right. So, as I said, today we're talking about the secret to being awesome during the era of polarization, which is really strong right now. And to help me suss this out is our fabulous co-host, Fiona Malcolm.
I thought you were going to say to help you be awesome.
Well, you do help me be awesome.
I just want to point out that this thing up here, the microphone, is so that they can hear us better.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake.
Yeah, not a mistake. All right.
Yeah. Interesting topic, right? I mean, considering what has happened in the last few weeks, let's talk about what you mean by identity, because there's a lot of pain in the collective.
Yes.
And a lot of vile, ugly stuff that's surfacing. You know, and I'm not going to talk about specifics, but it really is bringing out the ugly side of people and the way that they feel justified that things have happened. And so what do we mean by identity and how you're getting attached to it, and how come this sense of identity is creating polarization? Like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Because I am Fiona, but is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And how is it the key to being awesome?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So like you said, I'm Fiona, right? That was what you just said.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I am whatever your name isn't as simple as just your name.
Yeah.
It associated with that is a bunch of stuff, right? It has to do with your wounding, your memories, your stories, the beliefs you've inherited from your parents, from your teachers, from your friends, your assumptions, your conclusions that you have about the world and the way it should work. You have a whole bunch of things that run under what we call identity that make you you and your perspective yours. And the challenge right now is that we are being very pulled to associate our identity with only a couple of choices, this or that, which is actually a very false choice, because of course, who you are in reality could be, you know, an infinite number of possibilities. But we're really narrowing the field of like, you must associate with this, or you must stand for that in order to be like a good person. It's becoming very narrow what a good person is. And so identity has become this thing which has created more rigidity in people, right? Because they're really attaching to their identity, what they stand for, what their identity stands for, who, you know, like it's all kind of wrapped up in this stance, and then it can very easily become us versus them.
Okay, so this idea identity is the feelings or justifications of looking at the world in a certain way and saying, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yes.
Right.
That's
okay.
right.
And what you're saying is that, of course, this is creating this polarization, but there is another level to this form of identity. I mean, it's kind of, it's say abstract, but it's not at the same time. I'm kind of trying to get my head around how this idea, or maybe in Fiona, can create this polarization. Because I mean, I would think I'm not really attached, but then if I watch myself and my opinions and my beliefs, I kind of am feeling pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So I'm curious to learn about how I can take that and make it awesome. And what do you mean by awesome? Do you mean like even more of me being right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is, the reason identity is the key to being awesome in this time of polarity is because if you associate who you are, the center of who you are, okay, as opposed to it just being in your personality, your identity, right? That type of thing. And instead associate it more with universal consciousness or a much bigger perspective, then it shifts the nature of how you see the world and your perspective.
Okay, give me an example, because that's huge. Because right now I'm sitting there and again, well, wait, how do we identify with universal consciousness? We don't even know what that is.
Yes, exactly. Really.
You know, we have our identity beliefs and stuff about it.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. And if you sit in the perspective of your little s self, in the resonance of your mind, then you are vested in your identity, in your attachment to who you think you are. And you can't really imagine universal consciousness because it's outside of you. Right? It's outside of you. It's a very high resonance and you don't really understand it.
That's what you think.
That's what you think.
Right.
Yes.
Got it.
So that's why frequency work is so important, because it means that your resonance, as you release your distortion patterns, your resonance can rise. And as your resonance rises, then you have the ability, because your resonance is high enough, to access the feeling, awareness sense, or even the knowing of that universal consciousness without thinking, because universal consciousness does not vibrate at the level of thought, right? It vibrates much, much, much higher. I mean, universal consciousness, pure source, the divine, whatever you want to call it, the oneness vibrates at a very, very high rate. So it's not thinking, so to speak, right?
Thank God.
Yes, thank God. Yes. And so your awareness of it becomes more of a feeling or a knowing sense rather than a thought. Right. Which is, if you think about you, like me, Karen, that's a thought. There's like a package of thoughts around that, right? Like stories, like I said, assumptions, conclusions, expectations, all that stuff is thought. It's not, it's a construct that I make up with my mind based on what I perceive the world to be, what I have experienced in the past, and what I project to experience in the future. It's not really like a known sense based on a very high resonance. It's based on a mental construct.
Okay, so we're talking about a mind that's in charge, basically. And the mind has been driven by, like you say, basically what you've experienced in this lifetime, but also cultural, familial lineage, past life stuff, all that stuff is, as we know through epigenetics, is sitting there in our physical body and in our field. Right. And you're saying, I'm just tracking we. And you're saying that when we raise our frequency resonance by releasing all them distortions that are running, or at least enough that we can raise our frequency resonance and actually tap into this universal, highly resonating consciousness.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And then the mind gets out of the way.
Yes, because in order to I'm going to back up a little bit.
Okay.
In order to be able to be aware of, to perceive universal consciousness, you actually can't be seated in your mind. You actually have to have your resonance be expanding through your heart space. And I know that sounds like I don't really know what she means, but it means literally move the seat of your awareness from here, where your thoughts are, your stories are, and all that stuff, like blah, 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 that happens here. And you move it down into the heart space. When you're in the heart space, it's more felt. It's more awareness. It's more imagined, because you're not using the vehicle of thought anymore. So when you're in the heart space and your resonance is high enough, that's when you can become aware of or tap into universal consciousness in a different kind of way, because it's not like you're thinking in the same way.
And when I'm listening to you talk, I can imagine then why it must be so hard for folk to give up their identity. Because if it's not something you can do with your head and your mind and figure it out and be really clever and be seen to be clever and have that identity, reconfirmed again and again, you literally have to let all that go.
Yes. And what will happen is it's not just a one-shot deal. Most people don't just lose their identity in one go. Maybe if you're Eckhart Tolle, you might do that, but most people don't, right? For most people, it's a process where you're like, okay, I don't want to keep this version of me that was in fear, disempowered, anxious, stressed out. So they release enough distortion patterns, and then because they do, their resonance changes, and then the version of them that shows up is different. So they've lost that old identity. They've literally let it go. And so now they're a different version. And the more that you release your distortion patterns and rise in your resonance, the more high your resonance is, and the more your identity of you starts to shift. So, I mean, the thoughts you have, the emotions you have, who you think you are, who you think other people are, your relationship to them, all of that starts to change as your resonance rises. Because when your resonance is really low, you're much more vested in protecting your identity, right? Because I'm defending against you, because I'm vested in my identity. It's mine. So I have to protect it. I have to defend it. And I have to make sure that everyone understands that this is the right way, typically, right? But as your resonance rises and you release your distortion patterns, your identity starts to change because you don't care so much about it. I know that sounds odd, like you don't care about who you are. No, you're not as vested in your humanness. And I'm not saying that it's about negating your humanness, but you realize that there's a part of you that's imperfect, and there's a part of you that makes mistakes, and there's a part of you that's silly, and there's a part of you that, has envy and all that stuff. And it's okay because it's human, but it doesn't have to define who you are.
Okay, so if I was to bring it right back to basics, it's really like an example. I'm Fiona, I'm known as a fast runner. And I will kill myself to keep on being the fast runner because that's who Fiona is. But when I release that need to be seen as the fast runner, the identity of Fiona, and leave space for something else to come in, as in, so don't run as fast, come last, or be middle, or whatever, and be happy. Because I feel great afterwards. And let that need to be seen as the Fiona, the fast runner. A different version of me can come in. Right.
That's
and
right.
That's raising my frequency resonance.
Right.
Okay. So one more question, right? So if I'm in that space where I'm raising my frequency resonance, I'm releasing, and I'm moving to the heart, and I'm starting to feel this higher sense of something. I don't know what it is yet, right? Because I've let my identity go. I don't need to know. Right? And I'm tapping into it. Would I need an identity?
Well, you're still individuated and you're still a person. So your identity still exists as you.
Right.
But it's not like you're attached to it so much, right? So that's the thing that changes. So you're okay with it changing. You're okay with being with other people's identities because it doesn't matter so much because you're not staking in yours.
And you're not triggered.
And you're not triggered as much. And you associate and follow more that higher resonance of your big S self or universal consciousness, depending on how high your resonance is.
So what do you mean by that? Sorry, to follow that higher resonance.
So that means that instead of like following or being in this box of who you're supposed to be, because you've always been a certain way and your parents have told you have to do this, and your culture is like, in order to be successful, you have to be this way. What happens is that you're more listening and you're more following, and you're like, okay, well, at this point, what's called for me is to be more in surrender and softer around this, right? I don't need to stake so hard in being right here. It's not that important to me. I can let that go. You know what I mean? I can be more neutral. I can follow like, okay, well, I'm called to step forward and be a little bit more visible than I have in the past, for example, right? Because I feel like it's required at this time for me to be in higher service, higher contribution. So even though my identity is like I'm a quiet, shy person,
or your culture states that you must be
more reserved,
people and stay in the background.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm going to release that pattern and I'm going to follow that calling of like, it's required that I have a voice right now.
Right.
Okay. For whatever reason, you might not know what it is entirely before you do it, but you know what I mean? Like you're called to speak up or to be different in some way. So that is kind of like the thing that's more dictating who you are rather than just who you have been in the past. And what the social constructs are of who you should be.
Okay. So like if I made it simple again, it's kind of like following your gut.
Yes.
Like, your culture, your family, everything's taught you that you have to do it this way and go this direction. But inside there's this calling's going, no.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
not who you are.
It's not who you are.
Yeah.
It's not who you are. You need to go in this pathway.
Right.
And there's part of you that's like, oh man, it's really different from what I've done. But somehow I know I got to go over here and follow this.
Right.
And the thing is, it's difficult sometimes at the beginning because we still have a lot of distortion patterns. And we're like, oh, I don't know if I should. And your mind is going to tell you all the reasons why you need to be afraid and why it's not going to work out and all this stuff. But the thing is, when your resonance rises because you're releasing your distortion patterns, it becomes easier to be in surrender, and it becomes easier to follow the higher calling of who you can be, as opposed to who you should be based on old constructs. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can see how now, especially at this time with what's going on, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely horrendously crazy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to get worse too, is my feeling.
And it would be lovely if we could get to the stage where folk would just let go and start feeling or sensing whatever way it happens that there is a better version of them, not to get caught in the collective mind or hating on each other because I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you're doing a workshop coming up, and the words in that workshop are power, authority, and sovereignty. So I can only imagine with that, you're talking about being fully in the true essence of who you are and not being sucked into some other version of what they're telling you power, authority, and sovereignty
is.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this is exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. All the work that's starting to happen right now is what I just described. It's a following, right? It's like the timing is such that I know that I have to give it. And so what this is, just in case people don't know, it's a 3 workshop series called Power, Authority, Sovereignty, Opening the Portal to Radical Transformation. And these are 3 full workshops. They're not little like half-hour GFCs. These are full-on workshops. And it's all about stepping more into, well, the first one has to do with really becoming aligned with universal power, as opposed to just your own sense of power, like Karen and me. Yeah, power over someone else. It's actually being in flow with universal power, universal consciousness, or that greater consciousness of pure source or divine or the one. And when you tap into that, then you're tapping into the resources of everything. Everything's all connected to each other. So you have a lot more ability to do that. The second one has to do with authority, and it has to do with the authority to alter your physical blueprint, because so much of who we are is that we are disempowered with respect to our bodies, or our physical experience. Like we're not powerful enough. We don't have the authority to do it. Someone who's more powerful, more awake, more gifted has to wave their magic wand, and then maybe things will change. But I certainly, as a regular person, don't have the power to do that or the authority to do that.
Okay, so we're talking about, just to keep it nice and basic, how I like to keep everything basic.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the difference between an old paradigm where we, the meek ones or the followers of some leader, would never be able to do what that leader can do.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that's bullshit. Can I say that?
Well, you did. It's out of the bag.
Oops, maybe we could do a bleep over that. Right. That you're basically saying everybody on this planet that's alive has the authority and the power to change what's going on physically for them.
Yeah.
They just have to remember.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Sorry for interrupting.
And then, no, not at all. I think that's great. And there's a lot of just like in both of these workshops, there's a lot of distortion that keeps you from being able to do that. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds really like, wow, that sounds really cool. It is really cool. And there's a lot of distortion that keeps you from being able to access that.
Oh, yeah.
And the last one has to do with sovereignty, which has to do with transcending the limitations of the traditional human. And that has to do a lot with your perspective, meaning, like we just talked about, your identity. So we have the identity of the little s self, me, Karen, you, Fiona, and that's how we associate with ourselves. And then we think, okay, well, there's this big S self that I talk about a lot, the aspect of you that's infinite, indestructible consciousness, but we're not usually aware of it that often. It's sort of like out there somewhere that we might pay attention to, but maybe not. But the thing is, as your resonance rises, you start to realize there actually is no divide between the little s self and the big S self. If your resonance is high enough, it's actually self a united self. And then as you release more distortion patterns and your resonance rises, I mean, we probably won't get to this in this workshop, but what will happen is as your resonance rises even more, you start to realize that I am everything. Then you realize I just am, and my beingness is everything. And then you just am, right? Because there is no I. You have become everything.
Yeah.
And so that is awakening, essentially. And so the importance of what we're doing with regards to power, authority, sovereignty is starting to pivot into what I'm talking about, into that movement, into instead of like me thinking there's just my little ego mind me, oh, wait, there's this other aspect of me that's a higher vibrating aspect that's infinite. That's great, but they're separate. We're coming to a place where we're starting to unify those two, to have the perspective, even for a moment, where you realize it's all me, the little and the big, without a thought. It's just an awareness, a feeling, a knowing, and perhaps for some of you, an imagining. And the other thing about sovereignty that I'm going to talk about, which is I'm really excited about, has to do with manifestation, because you start to recognize that everything is within your field. And so we're going to talk about that a lot more, but you don't have to create something, because a lot of people will think of creation as like it's out there and I have to create it.
Yeah.
But it actually already exists within your field. You're just not aware of it because you think of yourself as separate.
Yeah.
And the awesome thing that I'm going to be sharing in the sovereignty one has to do with manifestation. And if you've done quantum manifestation, which was an amazing workshop, this is taking it up to the next level. And so it is usually priced at $888 for these 3 workshops, and I'm giving it for $111 for luminaries. So if you haven't signed up to be a luminary, if you're not on the newsletter list, then you can do that by scrolling to the bottom of the homepage and signing up. You also get a free GFC. So you get access to a whole bunch of stuff, including this. And
that's a great deal.
I know, it's really cheap.
You're working for peanuts.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's really important that it's time for people to have access to this work. So it's 3 full workshops. It starts, I think, next Tuesday for every Tuesday after that.
I'm thinking as we're sitting here and you've been talking, I think we should swap the word now if we're bridging, like you're saying, we're going to bridge. We should swap manifestation for amifestation.
Amifestation?
Amifestation. Okay. I think I'm probably talking. How about we let this beautiful audience ask whatever questions they want to ask?
Cool. So if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and write your questions in the comments. Also, just so you know, we are doing a giveaway. We always do one for the live audience, which is really cool. And in this particular case, we are giving away access to Power, Authority, Sovereignty, opening the portal to radical transformation. If you've already purchased it, you would be credited back. So you would be getting it for free. So if you want to get access to that series of workshop, the 3 series, it's the very first time launching it. If you want to do that, then you just have to write #power. Right? I was looking at Chris because I couldn't remember what it is that we decided. So if you want to get access to that, just write in #power, and that will make you eligible for the fancy dancy survey or like thing that we do where we pull the raffle, which is super fun. So you can do that. Now, if you want to ask questions, then go ahead and ask them and I will answer them. Oh, and also, if, like I mentioned, if you want to get access to things like this, which are, you know, this really screaming deal, right? $111 for 3 full workshops is a really awesome thing. And you can get access to or know about the new podcasts when they are released, which always include, by the way, a free group frequency calibration meditation, or when I go live for these YouTube lives, then please be sure to subscribe to become a Spherical Luminosity luminary. And you can find that at the very bottom of our homepage of our website, sphericalluminosity.com. You would also, of course, receive the moving with ease into a higher resonating, more abundant you group frequency calibration for signing up. And again, you can find that at the bottom of our homepage. Okay, so we're going to answer a couple of questions, and then we'll do the giveaway, and then we'll give the GFC to help you guys navigate into this higher level of awareness. Are these online? They're all online. Yep, definitely. At this price, we couldn't we couldn't host it anywhere. That's for sure. So anyway, yeah, definitely all online. Okay. Why does holding my space, speaking up for myself, feel masculine? Because in your cultural context and in your lineage, that is the pattern. So for you, in order to be worthy of holding your space and not have people push into it and not have the right to be in it, basically you have to be in your masculine. It's not actually true, but that's the perception. And if you are in your feminine, then basically people have a right to come into your space because that's how you have value or worth. So a lot of it is a cultural distortion pattern and also lineage. It runs really deep for you. It's a perception. It's not necessarily true that that's the case. And it has to do a lot with the feminine and also distortion patterns with regards to sacrificing self. So you're required to sacrifice yourself based on those patterns. And you're also a woman, so that makes it worse or heightened, I should say. And that's why it feels masculine to you. Because in order to have the right to have your space cleared, you need to be in your masculine. It's not true, but that's the way the patterns run. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Is there
one more question?
Mhm.
Same person.
Okay. Where do we go in our dreams? Is it another dimension or just my own inner thoughts? It's not your thoughts. It's not, well, it depends on who you are. Most people, when they dream and they go into their dream space, they journey. And where you journey to, depending on who you are, depends on your resonance. So you don't go into a different dimension. Most people aren't of a higher enough resonance to go into a different dimension. So you're not. You're going into different space-time resonances, though. So a space-time resonance is simply a resonance of space and time, which creates a realm. That's how we interface with or experience a quote-unquote reality. So when you're in a dream world, you are entering different space-time resonances in a different way than you would do in your waking dream. I call it a dream because the waking world is still dreamlike. It's just you're a different kind of awareness. But in that space-time resonance, you can enter different realms. And some of the realms, for some people, depending on who they are, can be darker. Some of them are teaching places. Sometimes they're places where people receive information from other beings. It sort of depends on who you are. But the dreamscape, and that's a very short answer. I mean, the dreamscape is much more complex than that, but essentially that's what you're doing. So you're basically moving between space-time resonances because you're not centered in your body in the same way when you're sleeping as you are when you're awake and you are consciously aware. Hopefully that answers your questions, but it's definitely not your thoughts. So we're going to move now to the giveaway. So here we go. For our fancy dancy giveaway. Let's see who wins. Okay, Chris is going to do his special thing, which I don't understand, and I'm thankful I don't have to. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
The fancy tool.
The very fancy tool.
I love it when you get to see the name.
Yeah, I know, me too. It's fun. Allie! So whoever Allie is, if you want to write into info@sphericalluminosity.com and claim your prize, they will either grant you access to Power, Authority, Sovereignty, opening the portal to radical transformation, or you will be refunded if you've already signed up. Okay, all you have to do is write into info@sphericalluminosity.com and they'll hook you up. Okay, so that takes us to the end of our questions and our giveaway. And now I'm going to move into the GFC. this is a really important GFC because
ask you, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah. So for this particular GFC, this has to do with becoming, now, if you're in power, authority, sovereignty, it'll actually prepare you for it. And the great thing about that program, just so you know, is I'm also giving as a bonus these voice notes that I'm leaving. So sometimes,
on Telegram.
Yeah, on Telegram.
Yeah,
where,
they're good.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm either giving you insights and or short GFCs, which you can use for different things. And they're really helpful.
Yeah.
We've gotten some really nice feedback around them. So anyway, that's there for you as well. But why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about this?
GFC.
All right, the GFC. Thank you. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what tangent I'm on. It's now left the building. Okay, so this GFC will start to get you ready for power, authority, sovereignty. And if you're not in it, it's fine. It will still help you. And so this has to do with a greater awareness, because we're not really aware of our identity. I know it sounds really weird.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking you to explain it.
Yeah.
I don't really think we understand what we mean when we're talking about our identity and why it can cause this kind of polarization.
But yeah. Exactly. So this will start to help you. And it's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable, actually, where you start to realize, like, I really stake behind this. This is unacceptable to me. It must be this way, or I can't relax, or it has to be that they have to act like this, or they're just wrong.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, you know, that we all have our stuff.
I never do that.
So I think that the GFC will start to give you clarity around it and start to help you to release your attachment to it.
Right.
Because the thing is, the more firmly you hold on to your identity, the more you're anchored in your ego mind, and the more that you'll stake in that little self perspective, and you won't be able to rise into that, what I call unified self. It's really difficult because you're like, no, I'm this way. There's no other way. So that becomes problematic if you really want to awaken. If you don't want to awaken, or if you don't want to have a more awesome life, because when you're staked behind identity, it makes it harder to collaborate with other people. It makes it harder to understand them. It makes it harder to have compassion. It makes it harder to have kindness. It makes it harder for you to not be triggered. It makes it harder for you to really just be relaxed enough to really enjoy the brilliance of life. And so the reason identity is part of the key to being awesome in this time of polarity is because as you shift your identity and rise up in it, you can start to transcend that humanness of identity, you know, of the right and wrong, good, bad, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and just watch it unfold rather than being attached.
Yes. So that's what this GFC is on, which I think is a really important one at this time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're just going to go into, oh, thank you, Natalie. I'm glad you've enjoyed the voice notes. This is Natalie who said she's enjoying the voice
on
notes.
Telegram.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm so glad you're enjoying them. It's new.
Because that happens when you sign up for the 3 series workshop.
Yeah.
You get invited to the Telegram.
Yeah, into the private broadcast, the private broadcast channel.
The VIP.
No, just the private broadcast channel. So anyway, you guys can sign up for that and listen to them if you'd like. Okay. So we're going to go into just like a black screen for a second, or just my screenshot while Chris mics me up. Okay, so you're going to go, I'm going to go on mute. Chris is going to mic me up so you don't see his butt in the camera. Because, you know, as fine as it is, I know you all want to see it. And then I'll come back on and we'll go into the GFC. Okay? All right. Here we go. Okay, I'm back and I'm mic'd up. All right, so here we go. Yeah. Let's rise together. settling in. Becoming aware of your body. And as you become aware of your body, becoming aware of the weightedness of your body as you sink into whatever is supporting you. Good. Noticing if you have holding anywhere. Noticing if you can soften. So, for example, a lot of us will hold in our tummies, especially if you're female. So, allowing your belly to soften. Noticing your jaw. Allowing that to soften. And noticing if there's anywhere else where you're holding tension. Good. Becoming aware now, please, of the very center of your solar plexus. And right in the center of your heart space. So bringing us all into the 0 point of space and time. Slowing everything down. Good. And keeping your attention in the center of your solar plexus, becoming aware of the distance between your crown and the center of your solar plexus, between the base of your groin and the center of your solar plexus, and from your spine to the center of your solar plexus. Good. Becoming more precise in your awareness of your center. And now please ask yourself the question, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And for those of you who are new, that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source. And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of your own brilliance from deep within, becoming brighter, clearer, more expanded. As I pull the frequency resonance even higher, irrespective of where it began. Good. Okay. So now bring your attention to your heart space and the back of your neck along your spine. So this has to do with awareness. Most of us aren't aware of how deeply our cultural and lineage and religious distortion patterns inform who we think we are, what is possible for us, and even what we believe, assume, or expect. So, starting to heighten awareness. So you start to ask yourself questions like, why do I believe that it has to be this way? Or how come when I want to do this, I'm triggered? Or whatever the question is for you. Likely it'll be more than one. So you start to have all of these unconscious assumptions and conclusions and expectations and stories start to become more visible to you. And you'll start to realize how your identity often will keep you limited in a certain version of yourself. Good. Yeah. Becoming aware, please, now of behind your heart, whatever that means to you. Okay, so wherever your heart is, behind it. So what I'm releasing is resistance. Sometimes we don't want to see, excuse me, all this stuff of who we think we are, because sometimes it's not always great. I mean, a lot of it may be great. And then you start to realize, wait a minute, I'm limiting myself here. I'm controlling there. I don't like this. I need this to be that way. So first releasing this layer of resistance. And then right behind it, we're going to release attachment to your story, to your distortions, to your filters of how you see the world, to your justifications, your reliance on your identity being a certain way. So imagining, sensing, feeling a really clear crystalline light expanding through this space. Good. Softening, please. Right into your center, even as this clear crystalline light gets brighter still, expanding out through all of you. Good. Okay. And now bringing your attention, please, to your heart space, right in the center of your chest, all the way down to the base of your groin, in addition to the back of your neck along your spine. So what I'm going to release next has to do with subjugation and control patterns. The more you stay locked into a certain identity, the more you pick a side, the less likely that you're going to be able to transcend the little s self and move into what I call the unified self. Okay, where you have that perspective of the big S self and the little s self being one. There is no divide. But if you're always anchored here in a side and who's right and who's wrong, well, you'll never transcend. It's a very strong control mechanism that is used a lot right now. And because it's so intense and so polarized, and what we're seeing involves a lot of suffering and death, of course it's very easy to fall into a side. So what we're doing here is releasing these control and subjugation patterns. The more of us that stay locked into a human sense of identity only, meaning with no awareness, no remembering of this much higher resonating sense of who you truly are, the more we stay at this level of consciousness. So let's release this. It's extremely important, especially at this time. Softening here, please. Right into the center of your body. Good. There we go. Excellent. Okay. So now bringing your attention, please, into your lower belly, your heart space, and right into the center of your solar plexus. All right. When there is a lot of confusion or chaos, humans often don't know what to do. Okay, we will go into fear, we'll go into paralysis, or we'll start to consume something because we're like, okay, this is making me feel better. So confusion is something that we don't like. We don't like that state of confusion. And so as a result, a lot of people will anchor more into identity, because then at least you're like, okay, well, at least I know who I am. And again, that sense of identity is often based on your distortions, what has happened to you in the past, and what you project into the future. It is very much from the mind. Okay. So allowing you to be able to be centered within yourself, even in a high degree of chaos and confusion. Should I be picking a side? Should I not? Who am I really? What does this mean about me? Okay, those aren't comfortable things to ask oneself in a time when there's so much up in the air, because it's like you could perceive it as though you're creating more uncertainty. And you are. Because in order to become a higher resonating version of you, you must ask those questions and release the certainty of who you thought you were, which limited you. So here we go. We're releasing this resistance to confusion and avoiding confusion by avoiding these questions about who am I on a higher level. How have I limited myself? Who do I think I am? What do I believe is possible for me? Good. Mm-hmm. Good. Imagining, please, a very brilliant blue expanding through this space. Excellent. Yep. And now becoming aware, please, of the front of your throat and your heart space. All right. So this has to do with a thought form or a belief that you are limited by the identity that has been prescribed for you by your culture, your lineage, your religion, for some of you, your past lives. There's nothing really you can do. So there's a disempowerment pattern here and a victim pattern. I can't change this. So I'm going to release that because that's not true. And for some of you, you don't really actually feel that. You don't necessarily believe that actively. But as you ask yourself the question of who am I and who can I be and why am I limited, you start to recognize that, whoa, wait a minute. There are all these assumptions and conclusions and expectations because I believe this is who I am, and therefore this is how the world should be, and this is what my experience should be as a result. So let's release that as well. There we go. Good. Really good. Okay, bring your attention to your heart space, deep in the body. Mm-hmm. So this has to do with the weightedness of all of these generations of lineage that have come before you, who believed they were a certain way, and it can never change. Okay, so there's a certain amount of drag or heaviness in your field because of this. There's so many generations of this. And as a result, you're having to pull against that, to release it, to rise above it, to realize, okay, wait, that may have been true for you, but it doesn't need to be true for me. So, okay, here we go. Releasing this weightedness. And there's a little subgroup here that are attached to that weightedness because you associate it with somebody that you love, a parent, a grandparent, someone that you were close to said you were supposed to be a certain way. So if you relinquish that, it's like you let go of them. Okay, and this is particularly true if they've passed on. And you don't want to let go of them necessarily. Okay, so this is a very small, tiny little subgroup, but it's up. So I'm going to release that. So you have the option to, of course, still hold love for this person you were close to and know that you can move into a greater version of self, okay, than what even they may have thought was possible when they were embodied, because of course they were limited by their own distortions. Yes, and I don't mean that it's necessarily out of malice or they were trying to hurt you. It's just a result of the human condition. Yeah. So here we go for this little subgroup as well. There we go. Softening, please, into your very center. Really good. Even more, please. And being aware of your heart space. And being aware of the front of your throat. Yeah, and the very front of your heart. So we're now hitting a distortion pattern of non-worthiness. Okay? And it's the non-worthiness of these, the higher level of identity that I was talking about in the discussion. Okay? Where the center of your identity is not in just your humanness. Okay? It moves up into a higher level order, into big S self, into universal consciousness. It's much higher in resonance. So you become more aware of the one. I am everything. Maybe not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but more often. But if you don't feel worthy of it, because you're not enough, you're not awake enough, you're not advanced enough, you're not vibrating high enough, whatever, you're never going to be able to be it. Okay, so let's release these patterns here. Good. Really nice. Yeah, imagining, please, a really clear crystalline light expanding through this space. Really good. Phenomenal. Yeah, right in the center of your heart space. All of this is simply remembering. You already know it. What you're doing is you're releasing your patterns so you remember. You're asking yourself these questions to examine self so you remember. It's not like it's never been here. So we're going to release this pattern right in the lower back half of the brain, in the brain stem, and right into the heart space and the inside of your lower rib. What we're doing is releasing the thought form belief that you're trying to almost like create something or find something outside of yourself. You're not. It's always been there this whole time. Good. And for a little subgroup here, that it's impossible for you to have an awareness, a knowingness, a feeling sense of who you truly are. So just releasing that. Good. Very, very nice. Okay, so now bring your attention to that xiphoid process and about 3 inches or 7 centimeters directly beneath it, clearing out the pain body. Everyone take a deep breath in, holding your breath for a count of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling with sound. Holding your breath out for a count of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing normally whenever that feels good to you. I do recommend staying in this space for at least a couple of minutes. Okay, just be in the resonance for a little while longer. And then whenever you are ready, blinking your eyes open, looking at something inanimate. If you found this YouTube live interesting or helpful, I'd love it if you could please help us out by hitting the like button and leaving a comment after the YouTube live ends. It helps me to get our content to more people who need it. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again, however our paths cross next. Let's rise together.